Hello, everybody. One of the biggest invaders in our heads is self doubt and overthinking. It's something that constantly is an epidemic in our minds, particularly if someone already has an existing condition of anxiety. So it constantly bombards our brains. There are moments where we overthink things, we overthink a process, we overthink our decisions, our interests, our choices. There are moments where that translates into self doubt. We start doubting ourselves, doubting our abilities, doubting our aspirations, doubting what we're interested in, doubting who we are. So, those two can actually go hand in hand oftentimes, and it can really cause an individual to contribute to a low self esteem, to develop more anxiety, to become isolated, to disconnect from the world, or to even think of themselves as a failure because of the fact that their overthinking is throwing them so far into a non existent future. So, a couple things that actually stem from that is it comes from the idea that while one is trying to predict and line up and draw out their future, sometimes they're held back by that doubt, that self doubt, or they start overthinking the choice because for whatever reason that they may feel they need to hold back. It could be their fear of failure, it could be their fear of going forward with something new, it could be their fear of repeating the past, typically. I have read in many books that have to do with spirituality and psychology combined that a lot of fear of a future and fear of an outcome and the fear of the unknown stems from the fact that not because you're afraid of the future, but because you are afraid of repeating your past. A past experience has become so ingrained into your subconscious that it's carried on with you within every experience, within every choice. So therefore, you're constantly tormented by this preceding event. You're tormented by the feelings. More than likely, they're negative if they're holding you back. These negative feelings from this negative experience or outcome that are bombarding in your head, that are trying to warn you to not do it again because of how painful it was when you went through it that one time. And it's helpful to know that that is not because, there's something wrong with me. No, just simply try to become friends with your thinking pattern. Instead of being like, why are you thinking this way? Which, I mean, we go to because it's making us feel awful, or it's causing us to freeze up, or it's causing us to second guess, or it's causing us to regress a little bit. Rather than getting upset at the way your thinking pattern is going, rather than getting upset about the doubt or the overthinking, try to just understand, okay, this is my brain trying to retrieve a file it has in store in the back of the storage room, which is our subconscious level of our brain, that little back part of the brain. It's just my way and my mind's way of trying to protect me. And think it. Be like, okay, you know what? I thank my brain processes, I thank my coherence, my consciousness for trying to protect me from an outcome that I have experienced in the past. So you challenge that. You challenge your overthinking thoughts. You challenge your self-doubt and say, while yes, I do feel this way, while I do understand that my brain is trying to set it out this way, it's trying to imagine it this way, it's only trying to protect me. But does every experience happen the same way? Is every experience truly the same? And the answer is no. Not every experience is identical. So just tell yourself that as well. Like, just say, well, this is a new occurrence, a new event. It can have a new outcome. So challenge your thoughts rather than bombarding it or trying to suppress it with positivity where you're like, no, everything's fine. You just shut up and you're like, shh, everything's fine. Instead, just be like, okay, just challenge it, interact with it rather than shut it off. Try to be like, okay, I hear you. I hear that you're saying that this might happen. And challenge it with the opposite outcome. And that's typically the positive outcome, the outcome you hope for. Say, but what if this actually does happen? What if it turns out this way instead of what my fear is telling me? Try to challenge it and see what ripple effect you can go off of. See what path it starts branching off into. And see how your thought pattern changes and how that changes you and how that changes and alleviates that overthinking and self-doubt. So that's a way that it has been bombarded to us and linked to the past. Sometimes our mind, as a human being, we like to find patterns and we like to keep records and memories. So therefore, everything that we try to imagine for the time ahead typically retrieves information from the past without us knowing it, mostly. It could even be from our subconscious. It's probably not even something that we distinctly remember. So just try to remember that self-doubt and overthinking can stem from the past. Part of what also comes with us challenging those thoughts from our past experiences, challenging those subconscious underlying thoughts, beliefs, values, comes a sort of process of unlearning some things. So this goes a little bit deeper. Try to confront yourself and challenge those beliefs in a deeper level. So our subconscious consists of every single experience we have had since we were born up until this point. It stems from a childhood experience at school. It can be a micro expression you saw in a face of content or disappointment within a person. It can be a snide comment that someone made to you when you try to talk about something you're passionate about. It can be at any level, big or small. It can contain every single microsecond of that experience. So try to unlearn all of it, if that makes sense. While we are constantly learning and evolving, a lot of evolving does have to do with unloading all of that baggage that we've carried with us, all those harmful stereotypes we carry with us, the harmful prejudices we have within us, the automatic responses we have towards whatever situation is ahead of us, or whatever theme of a situation is ahead of us, or theme of an event, of an individual, of ourselves, of a certain ideal that you're trying to reach for in life. So for example, if somebody has constantly seen throughout all their lives that it is ridiculous for an individual to want to be creative, for example, if they have from birth, maybe it doesn't even have to be hundreds of experiences. It could be 3 distinctive things. So maybe one time when they were 7, someone made fun of a drawing they had. Or when they were 13, a teacher told them, oh, this is a creative project, but this isn't right. This isn't quite what I was looking for, so I'm giving you a failing grade. Or there could be one when they were 15 that they tried to pursue something and perhaps their parents judged it or told them, a creative life isn't necessarily a perspective one. It's not a successful one by common societal standards. So try to unlearn that. For example, if this person, let's say that the subject that is having a lot of self-doubt or having a lot of overthinking in their lives is going for that creative pursuit. And it is something that they know in their heart is what they want to do, but something's holding them back. They're giving it second thoughts. They're hearing all those narratives in their heads from the past. They're hearing all these narratives of what could be negative against it, what could go against it, what could be an obstacle. So therefore, it's good to take in that first method of challenging that thought, but into a level where you unlearn it. You actually discard that information. It's funny because in life, I don't know if you notice that people are ingrained and hardwired to not remember compliments. I mean, try to think about the last time someone complimented you or all the little compliments you've gotten. I'm pretty sure some will come up, of course, but how much easier is it sometimes to bring up an insult or a comment that made you feel really bad about yourself or made you doubt something you love? How much easier is that coming up in very specific detail than a compliment? It's kind of weird because it shows that we carry it with us. It shows that we sometimes carry it with us and let it define us even. So that could be important. That is exactly why you need to unlearn it. You need to discard that information as no longer being a part of your actual existence, your being, and your identity. You need to discard it and not carry it with who you are. You need to not leave it as a baggage that's on your shoulders. You need to just kind of leave it behind and be like, no, you know what? This is who I am. This is what I like. This is what I'm interested in. I know that I am passionate about this. I know that I do something with it. I know that I have that potential in me. So discard any harmful information from your past. Confront all of those really tough moments that you've had in your life, those traumas that have caused you to doubt yourself so much, that have caused you to overthink so much in that particular area in your life that you're facing right now. So that is one of the biggest things to do. It's not just a mask. It's not something that'll be a temporary alleviation. It's a process. It may take years, it may take days, months, weeks, however long it takes, but it's something that actually transforms your personality. It actually transforms your psyche. It won't just leave it with a band-aid of positive affirmations. It'll actually confront the stuff, your genetic makeup, your subconscious buildup, your life experiences. It'll look them in the face and tell them you don't belong here anymore. You have no dictation over my life and over my future prospective outcomes or aspirations or actions or anything. That's one of the most important things to do whenever you find yourself in a situation where you're overthinking or doubting yourself. So while you are in that waiting process of it all, while you are unloading all of that, you are unlearning it, you're challenging your thoughts, from day-to-day life, as you're doing that, as you're on that path, as you're on that part of your journey to do that for yourself, you can do little things that are a little bit more simple and accessible that you can integrate day in and day out. So one of the things is when you're overthinking and you're doubting yourself in terms of the future, you can bring yourself back to the present moment. You could bring yourself back into what you are experiencing right now. Not in the sense of what you're thinking about in the future, but in the sense of, all right, you are assuming this or you're imagining this entire outcome. So to bring yourself back from that, to bring yourself back from those rampant thoughts, from that rambling, from that constant bickering or bullying or anxiety that comes with those thoughts, those possibilities, the 1,000,001 possibilities that can happen. Bring yourself into the present moment. Think of what is going on right now. Think of what you are doing right now. Focus at the task at hand. Focus on the emotions at hand. Focus on the things you are doing right now, the things you are accomplishing right now, the little milestones you have lined up in this immediate space and time. That can help a lot to draw yourself out of overthinking or draw yourself out of that self-doubt of what you imagine yourself to be in that situation, what you imagine your performance to be, your experience, every single outcome. You are no longer projected into the future. You are brought back into the now. You're bringing yourself back into the now instead of letting yourself illustrate this part of your life that's not existing right now, that has yet to come. Another simple thing can be gratitude. So rather than focusing on your possible shortcomings, like self-doubt does, self-doubt will make you put everything under a microscope. It'll make you put all of your facets, your talents, your abilities, your personality, your interests, your values. It'll put all of that under a microscope and it'll pick at it. It'll nitpick at it. It'll bully it. It'll roast it, if you say, it's going to start roasting everything. So try to practice gratitude. And I return to this very frequently in any video or discussion I do because gratitude does have positive effects on your brain. It can change the wiring in your brain within 21 days if you practice listing 3 things you're grateful for every day. It can have a long-lasting effect in the way you look for things, the way you seek things, even, because you're going to start wanting to find things to write down. So back to that, being grateful in circumstances where you are doubting yourself or where you're constantly overthinking. Try to think of all the things you're grateful for that have worked out for you, that you once anticipated, that you once doubted. Reflect upon your life, reflect upon those occurrences, and reflect upon the ones that have had the outcome that you do hope for and that you did hope for at the time. So be grateful for those. Be grateful for those parts of those parts of your personality that got you there. Be grateful for your abilities that have gotten you to this point, to those experiences that have gotten you to this point, that have carried you into this exact moment, that have given you the accumulation of all of the talents, all of the skills, all of the information that you now have, all of that growth that you have achieved and accrued throughout the time, throughout your experiences, your battles, your trials, your tribulations, your accomplishments, your milestones. So also take time to reflect upon all of that. When you find yourself doubting, when you find yourself overthinking, try to think of all the things you're grateful for up until the point that you are at right now, whether it be an experience or whether it be a layer of who you are or what you do. So while it is, easier said than done, most times we can get lost, we can slip up, we can regress in a certain time and space. We can regress into a habit that isn't necessarily healthy for us. And this habit could be self-doubt or it could be overthinking. Catch yourself every time you fall into that rabbit hole. Assess it, unlearn it, challenge it, look it in the face, look at it in the eye, and try to challenge all of the overthinking thoughts, all of the self-doubt thoughts. Challenge them in a way that it goes in your favor. Try to unlearn all of that subconscious buildup that you've had throughout your life, all of the comments, thoughts, ideologies, experiences that have accumulated. Unlearn all of it and discard it out the window. Just toss it out the window if it's not helpful for the thing you're trying to pursue or the thing you are currently becoming. Also, be present whenever your mind is just projecting so far into the future. Bring yourself back into the now. Bring yourself back into every single element that is here right now. And lastly, be grateful for all the things that have gotten you to where you are. Be grateful for all the little layers and all the little tiny pieces that have made you who you are now, for all the experiences that have carried you into what you are doing now, into what you are going to achieve, into what you're pursuing, into all of that growth that has made you who you are today. And know that while overthinking and self-doubt are very common, you are bigger than all those thoughts. You are more powerful than all of those thoughts are putting you in, than what all of those thoughts are beating you into submission to become. You're bigger than all that. You can accomplish it. You can control your mind before it controls you. Just remember that you have that power and you can get through it. I believe you can get through it. I hope this video helps you in whatever aspect of your life you need this for. And I look forward to whatever else we can learn together and whatever else we could discuss. Thank you very much and have a great mental health day.